Okay, welcome everyone. My name is Rachel Foskett and I'm Marketing Solutions Manager at DataZoo. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar, Getting Ready for Programmatic TV in Europe. Our goal in the next 45 minutes or so is to give you an overview of programmatic TV, trends in the US and trends in Europe, and how advertisers can prepare for its arrival in Europe. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping items for me to take you through. First of all, you'll be in listen-only mode to cut down on background noise. The webinar control panel can be opened and closed by clicking on the small red arrow button in the upper right-hand corner of your screen. If you have any questions during the webinar, you can send them by opening the control panel and then typing them in the question box. We'll open the floor to questions in this manner at the end. Also, today's webinar is being recorded and we'll send you an email with a link to the recording afterwards. So without further ado, we will take a look at the agenda for today. So first of all, we'll be talking about what is programmatic TV, following on to trends in the US and trends in Europe, then the benefits of programmatic TV, why you should be considering this as an option, how you can prepare as an advertiser, and then some success stories that we've seen in the US. So I'm going to hand you over to our speakers for today's session. We have Neil Galloway, who's our Enterprise Sales Manager at DataZoo, and Adam Markey, who's our Director of TV Solutions. So I'll pass you over.
All right, thank you, Rachel. So what is programmatic TV? Honestly, it means a lot of things to a lot of different people. And I'm going to go through some kind of jargon here just to, let's see, Rachel, I don't think I can, I'm clicking it, there we go. So I'm going to go through some jargon here just to kind of level set here. So programmatic TV can mean a lot of things to a lot of different people. So we're going to talk through a few other terms, but really it's about automation of any aspect of the TV advertising ecosystem where machines are putting orders in and there's automation there. Now, not everything is in the TV world is programmatic as the kind of online world, but one of the things about programmatic TV is that there are aspects of it that are automated, from the order management process in certain forms all the way to the delivery of the ad. Television is really broken down into many different types of TV, though, that can be programmatic. And the first one is linear. So this is a traditional broadcast where a viewer watches a scheduled TV program on the channel that it's originally presented on. And the key with linear TV is that it's broadcast. So it can never be fully programmatic by the way that we're used to it in the digital world, where we're buying individual impressions. A broadcast impression goes to a group of houses on linear TV or a group of television sets. Over the top is a little bit different. So, this is TV that comes over the web and it's a single broadcast to a household. So this really changes the game in terms of being able to look and feel like programmatic advertising. And over the top means it's a box that sits on the top of your traditional cable box or wherever you're receiving content from. Typically, it's in a VOD format, but there are some forms of live TV, especially in Europe, starting to crop up right now. VOD, you saw that in the last. This is video on demand. This basically means people can watch a specific episode at their leisure. If you're used to using the ITV Hub or Sky Go, Netflix, those are things that are video on demand. Connected TV. So connected TV and over the top kind of get lumped together a lot. But this is basically any type of connected television set and any type of box connected into that television set where there's streaming technology and OTT content coming into it. Smart TVs, Apple TV, Chromecast, Xbox, and PlayStation are your traditional connected TV devices that we can run ads on. And finally, addressable TV. So addressable TV uses programmatic technology and advanced audiences to take that linear broadcast and actually cut in a specific audience to that household in real time. So this is your traditional set-top boxes are being upgraded in various parts of the world to be able to kind of take a signal and cut into the broadcast and actually overlay an ad sometimes. Sometimes it also comes within VOD content when you're watching that on your set-top box. But this allows us to reach a one-to-one household with a very specific ad on a traditional set-top box watching linear TV. So it's a pretty advanced technology that's just starting to roll out in parts of Europe. So now we're going to talk about a few of the trends as we're going deeper into the programmatic world. Over here in the US, things are actually exploding, which is really cool. So we're seeing a lot of scale starting to happen. So programmatic TV is predicted to reach about $4.5 billion in the US by next year, about 6% of ad spend. Now that's across linear and connected and addressable all lumped together, but that means that people are starting to think about automation for operational efficiency as well as efficiency in the media buy, and then also using advanced data to kind of change the way that people are planning. About 15% of senior ad buyers here are recording the use of programmatic TV, and specifically in the world of connected TV and OTT, we're having a big revolution in terms of consumers watching live television on streaming broadcasts. So things like Fubo TV, Sling TV, DirecTV Now, PlayStation View are reaching scale. And we're actually recommending to people over here in the US, about 10% of your TV budget, you should actually think about moving into the OTT live linear world because we're seeing that growth in households and that growth in consumption on our end to be about that percentage, which is pretty wild. And I bet you this time next year, it's going to look much different than that as well.
Okay, so in terms of viewing habits changing in Europe, we're constantly hearing the TV market is in decline and that brands need to look elsewhere to gain mass market coverage. However, with TV now offering some of the best content in TV history, it's not whether they're watching, it's how they're watching it. In actual fact, viewing across Europe is up 11% year on year when you build all the platforms in together. To give an example, within this, 55-year-old plus are actually watching more TV than ever. People in general across all audiences are now watching TV in a different way. They're watching it through subscription services such as Netflix, Amazon, demand linear services, and connected TV platforms. So where do we see the growth in ad revenue? From the previous slide, we now know that people are continuously watching TV across various devices and platforms. As a result, the potential ad growth in Europe is huge. It's estimated by 2018, ad revenue across TV and VOD for the key players in Europe will have increased by an additional 300 million. From the graph on the right-hand side, you can see across Europe, including the UK, France, and Germany, that we've seen this growth over the last 3 or 4 years. So how does it look like in terms of the platforms? The predicted growth in the ad spend is directly in line with the anticipated growth in connected TV installs. As you can see, we're expecting growth of up to 31% in the next 3 years, with VOD penetration also expected to grow from 12% up to 20%. So how does this look in terms of inventory? Now, clearly, following on from Adam, the UK and EU are miles behind in terms of the actual scale. However, in Europe now, we're seeing monthly averages of 60 million impressions. While this may seem low, this is an additional 10 million impressions from the last 3 months, and this is continuing to grow month on month. Of course, within each market in Europe, you can see there's different levels of availability at this stage. The key takeaway here, there is growth across all European markets, and it's not slowing down.
Yeah, so when you buy it, things are changing too about how people are buying it. So while inventory is growing, the kind of data available is changing, it also changes the way that marketers are thinking about buying, right? So if I look at over here on the left-hand side and I focus on how TV was traditionally bought, that's called content-based buying. So that's basically taking a television show and saying, I want to buy this television show or this set of television shows or this network because I believe my audience is watching it. And what that means to a marketer is that they're eventually going to get, they're going to hit their target audience, but they're also going to get a little bit of waste, right? Because that they're not actually targeting one-to-one on the exact people that they want to reach, but they're just kind of broadly hitting people. So it meant that TV was really good for brands and marketers that could kind of maximize their target audience with that type of buying. So large consumer packaged goods, financial services, things everybody need are really good things for, content based buying on TV. But then when we are able to apply a little bit of data to it, this is called audience-based buying. So this is taking like traditional content, like television shows, as well as knowing a little bit about the audiences that are watching this TV beyond just demographics, and knowing a little bit about their income, knowing a little bit about their age and gender, knowing where they live, knowing some of their offline habits. And what we can do with the audience-based buying is taking that audience profile and matching that to inventory and saying this inventory indexes a little bit highly for this very specific audience. And while you're not buying in a one-to-one fashion, what you can do is you can be more effective with the context of the buy, which show is really mapped to certain audiences. So when we've applied audience-based buying, we can go a little bit deeper for some brands that have very specific audiences and get a bigger value than going just for traditionally content-based buys. And then what's really exciting is addressable-based buying, where we move even deeper from demographics and some broad profiles of inventory to actually reaching households one-to-one. So addressable television that we talked about previously is great for that, as well as connected TV, where you could take audience data and reach households on a one-to-one basis, even on mobile and desktop type videos. But this is where you're buying only households that match that audience. So what we recommend to TV buyers is when they're shifting from content-based, audience-based, and addressable, think about your brand, and also think about how the type of buy actually maps to what you need. So for a lot of marketers, they start with addressable buys and get as much of that as possible now. They move to audience-based buying where they can, and then they opt for content-based buying. And that allows a marketer to reach their most desired people first, and then layer in with the rest of their budget that kind of broader-based buying. So
okay.
where does Europe differ than the US, Neil?
Yeah, thanks, Adam. So I think what we try to do is break this down into 5 pillars today. So the first one is the historical infrastructure. One of the first and the key differences is the presence of the TV license models. The most significant market where this occurs is in the UK. The BBC holds a significant share of the TV viewing, and within this, the BBC doesn't allow any advertising to be broadcast. Secondly, the sales houses in Europe tend to have much greater negotiation power than in the US. Across the 6 Western European countries, over 70% of total TV advertising is bought through just 2 sales houses. And in the Netherlands and the UK, a third sales house takes this to over 90%. There's also a cap on commercial minutage. This also leads to limited inventory, especially when you get to peak viewing times. Following on from the sales house, the current model of guaranteed upfront trading agreements has always favoured the agencies and the sales houses. Therefore, until recently, there's been less motivation to push this to programmatic models. In terms of the reputation of programmatic, historically, both at a global level and Europe, broadcasters have associated programmatic with direct response, and they were resistant for TV advertising to be associated with it. They initially felt it devalued TV inventory. However, they're beginning to see how important it is to push both areas together and see the benefit now. The fourth item is audience. So the legacy of audience measurement systems such as Barb were founded in the early 80s. This has led to lack of granular real-time data. However, measurement companies are catching up fast. For example, by developing single TV and online measurement solutions. This is crucial and now becoming a big sales tool within more progressive sales houses who are beginning to develop these tools in-house. Finally, and probably the most crucial part, is the difference between the EU and the US with GDPR and the stricter data protection laws that we have. One of the key issues being the possibility for smart TV users having opt-in features and user profiling being anonymous. For example, practice of matching addressable audience data with consumption data using third-party data brokers is commonplace in the US. However, this is already more restricted in local European markets. But saying all this, we're still seeing pretty much all the broadcasters in Europe move towards a programmatic form in some way. For example, one of our partners, Sky, are just about to launch Sky AVX, which is the first step towards programmatic linear buying, which will allow you to buy data segments rather than a Barb measured audience for the first time. Another example is HBBTV. HBBTV stands for Hybrid Broadcast Broadband TV, and it's a standard that Freeview Plus is based on. What this means in practical terms is you'll be able to get both your standard broadcast free to air and your IP services all in one place.
All right. So just clicking over, let's dive in a little bit deeper into some of the solutions that we have. And we're going to talk a little bit about connected TV today, but it's important to understand, you know, when we're out talking to people like this agency trading desk manager here, brands and trading desk managers really care a whole lot about really using data, controlling reach, and understanding how to really measure that in relation to all of the other types of buying that they're used to doing, right? So the digital world is really measurable. It's, you know, you could use a lot of data on it, but TV was never really measured that way. And when you can actually take a look at television types of buys, apply data in the same way, and start to measure it in the same way, you're able to see, you know, and really plan investments very well. So, you know, this agency trading desk manager said that there was the biggest missing piece in what they were doing in TV. So we set out to buy that and to build that. And we're doing it through connected TV. So connected TV really extends the reach to the new TV audience. We all know that people are watching less traditional linear TV and sitting on the couch. And OTT and connected TV is really about that younger tech adept audience that's watching TV over a variety of devices. Maybe they're still watching over that box that's connected to their TV, on their TV, but some people are even out on the go. I watch some, you know, Hulu and Netflix when I'm on the train sometimes on the way to work. So it's really, really changing. And the really nice thing about connected TV is that it is programmatic from not just the buying perspective, but also the delivery perspective. So you can have a one-to-one feed all the way down to the device and really start to change messaging based on what you might know about that household consumer device, and then also start to measure it very granularly. So what we've gone out to build for the people that want to take advantage of data and take advantage of measurement is a really powerful capability in connected TV on top of our traditional programmatic DSP touchpoint. And we use OneView which is our cross-device identification platform and data activation platform that allows us to go beyond just simple geo-targeting, publisher app channel contextual targeting that we talked about, and really start to apply data in interesting ways. One is household frequency management. So whether or not somebody is at home or they're on the go, we can control frequency at the household level. Channel sequencing. So you're going to see a case study on this a little bit later, but channel sequencing is about actually making VR and awareness campaigns work together well. Advanced first and third-party audiences. So this is taking any audience from the web or mobile and actually applying that to CTV in a privacy-safe way that works in the environments that you're currently in the EU. Household attribution allows us to take business outcomes like web traffic, mobile app usage, or even potentially offline data that comes in from sales requests and map that in back to the original viewing event. And that allows us to actually go beyond things like measuring just for reach and measuring things for business outcomes. And when we can type those business outcomes in on a semi-real-time basis or even a real-time basis for some types of activities, we can do KPI-driven optimization, which really changes the game for TV buyers, where they're looking at how many leads did I generate yesterday? How many people actually went to the website and viewed the branded content that I want them to view? How many people are engaging with my brand on other devices now that they've seen that message? So you can actually start to get insights into that the next day and adjust your buys on the connected TV world based on how all of that's working. So those are capabilities that we've pioneered and are unique to DataZoo right now. And we're going to talk a little bit in the future about some of the case studies at the end of this presentation. So what does that campaign look like? When I take all of these features together, right, I have really the TV campaign of the future. So up at the top left here, it's really about taking the private TV marketplace. So DataZoo has taken a stance of actually curating television inventory. And we also can layer it on with direct deals. So you could bring your own television inventory if you have programmatic access or pre-made deals with TV partners today. And then finally, you can take the desktop and mobile inventory that people are watching TV everywhere on and layer that in. And you can layer a holistic campaign on top of that, where we can manage frequency, we can use third-party data, CRM and retargeting type tactics, as well as prospecting and contextual buys on top of it. Attribute the business outcomes that we talked about, and then feed that back in to the tactics that are working well for your brand, and do that all in a self-service closed loop, which is a very exciting thing. So how do you get ready for it? So the first thing that we can do is prepare the creative. So TV-ready creative is all about 15 and 30-second videos typically. These are higher quality, so really high bit rate. So you want to make sure that you take things that were traditional TV creative, the super high resolution for HD, and use that as a basis. You can't use a small, tiny video you're using on, say, desktop and mobile video, and use that in TV, or it just won't look good. And Neil, I think there are some other differences in the EU as well.
Yeah, so as well, there would be just adhering to Clearcast regulations and clash management. In terms of the Clearcast, it could be that there's restrictions for kids programs, high sugar and fat foods, and so forth. So all the ads that play out, the creatives that play out, will need to be approved before they can assign that to those campaigns.
Right, and we're specifically talking about getting onto the linear television there, correct?
That's correct, yeah.
Cool. And what about budgets? So, given the inventory size, how do we recommend people, utilize the scale of connected TV that exists right now with their current budgets and plans?
Yeah, I would say looking at the inventory at the moment, for the UK, I think you could run a solus campaign with connected TV inventory. However, for the rest of Europe, until that starts to grow, I think that would need to accommodate or accompany, the linear campaigns you already have running. Just until we start to see more growth, which, as I mentioned before, we should hopefully see that by the end of the year.
Yeah, and where we see people in the other parts of Europe where there's not as much scale as in the UK, they have a very premium video focused type of campaign, right? Where they're taking the mobile video that's available, the desktop video that's available, connected TV that's available, and really curating high quality, high completion rate inventory inside of it, and then executing on top of that. So connected TV won't be able to scale totally there, but what you can do is up your completion rates and then up the, just the quality of the content that people are viewing on your campaigns as well. So that's a good success, a good way to be successful in connected TV for places outside of the UK. On the targeting side, there are some different tactics that we talked about, right? So to be successful, it's important to take a kind of broad look at the tactics that are available. As we covered, there's contextual or content-based buying that you can do. There's the ability to prospect on top of that. So if you have some sort of business outcome, you can actually start to optimize to those outcomes. And then the third way is using audience data. Now, audience data doesn't, with the small inventory, you can't run a 100% audience-focused campaign right now in terms of, buying people that are just in market for travel, right? But you can layer that in as a tactic to guide the rest of your campaign and to show where the performance really is. Neil, anything else that you wanted to say there?
Yeah, I would just add that in terms of the core audience, from what we can see at the moment, it's really between 16 and 35-year-olds. And one of the reasons you consider connected TV is that on traditional linear, that has become more expensive as the audience has started to fall away. So it's a good way of finding that audience at a good price at the moment as well.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. You can kind of infer a lot of audience details from just the type of inventory that connected TV is. That younger or that demographic, as well as the income, as well as kind of where people are at in their mentality, can really inform what types of brands should be running on connected TV right now as well. And platform. So, the one thing that I would like to point out about this one is finding a platform that is going to grow and that can handle the various types of television right now. So linear, addressable, and connected TV are great ways to activate, and they're just starting to become self-service. So at DataZoo, we launched connected TV as self-service, but we have plans to layer in addressable and linear very, very shortly. Neil talked about Sky AVX. We're working on that right now. So we're actually able to take all of television very shortly and wrap it under one self-service platform. So that's really exciting. And I think kind of building off of the platform thing, future-proofing, right? So what is the future going to look like in the world of television? So the future is going to look less like linear and more like traditional programmatic. So people are going to be taking their own audiences, their own audience data, matching that into linear, addressable, and connected worlds, mapping it together, and running on that. So when thinking about how to prepare for this, think about the platform, think about where the roadmaps are at in terms of where people are buying, and understand that, and ask the question, are people going to be able to buy this as, consumers change from the devices that they're watching television content on, all the way over to, how data is changing and how media companies are activating that data. Neil, anything you wanted to say there as well?
No, not really. I think you pretty much covered it. It's just to say, from a European perspective, we are seeing more and more people looking for the self-serve as a potential option going forward. Just mirroring what you said there, really.
Excellent. So we're going to talk about a couple success stories right now. So we've got two really interesting case studies of people using connected TV in specific ways. The first one is a sportswear brand over here in the US, where we built a whole plan around a custom audience of people that are trying to target outdoor enthusiasts and brand loyalists. So they used our TV device graph to target customized audiences to deliver in-target delivery. We used that third-party data set to precisely target those desired audience across OTT and smart TV devices. We implemented frequency controls to make sure that people aren't getting hit too much, but they're actually being exposed at the right levels. And then we actually measured lift back to online traffic as well as site engagement for product pages across mobile and desktop devices. So the first thing we saw is that, TV is very different than, traditional digital video when you run these tactics. We got about a 94% completion rate on there. So basically that 6% accounts for people changing the channel or switching the stream kind of mid-show. But it's really great in terms of if you're comparing it to digital video. And then the really wonderful thing about it is people are finally able to take things like online engagement and map that back into their TV campaign. So we're able to produce lift in product page engagement. That's lower funnel engagement, people actually engaging with the content and viewing the products from the sportswear brand. And then we also drove 31% more people to the homepage. And on this next slide here, we ran a campaign for a streaming music service. So we were fortunate enough to have both awareness and DR working together. And what we did is we took exposures in the connected TV world and mapped them into the rest of the DR journey. So people would receive some DR ads after seeing some connected TV ads. And what we saw is that we were able to reach consumers that were kind of in that target for the brand message. And then, with a really high impact format. And then we followed them to other channels like desktop, native mobile video as well. And we hit them with other DR messages as well. And we found that the people that started their journey in connected TV had a huge conversion rate, and their CPA was tremendously lower compared to people that weren't sequenced, and then people that also started in mobile video and native. So it really shows you the power of taking an awareness campaign as well as your traditional DR campaigns, mixing them together and really seeing the benefit of having those two things be very coordinated.
Cool, thanks Adam. So I think now we have a bit of time to open up the floor to questions. Just a reminder, if you have a question, please type it into the question box. We have one that's come in whilst we've been talking. So the question here is PTV more suitable for branding or direct response campaigns? What are you seeing is more effective in the US?
Yeah, that's awesome. I think that last slide that we showed there, talked a little bit about it. Like it's connected TV and programmatic TV is really the best of both worlds. For brand marketers, what they can do is actually take a more narrow audience and start to deliver impressions directly to the people that they want to make aware of their products. And then for DR marketers, as well as people who have kind of stayed away from TV because they haven't really been able to measure it well, it's a great way of breaking in and actually proving out ROI of television. So we have marketers doing both at the same time, like that streaming music service did. And then we also have, marketers that are kind of taking the leap and changing the way that they're thinking about their traditional TV buying or doing traditional TV buying for the first time because they can target and measure in new and exciting ways.
Cool, thanks very much. Okay, we've had another question in here. Do you think that agencies will start to restructure to house connected TV in with the TV teams or keep it separate?
Yeah, I can give my perspective in the U.S. and Neil, maybe you could talk a little about what you're seeing over there, or if that parallels that. You know, when we're out with various agencies and brands, we see a struggle. You know, from people that are on the linear side and people that are on the digital side, programmatic TV and connected TV blurs both of those worlds. And I think we're going to start to see a lot of blurring between those channels generally. But what the really thing, the thing that we see, or the biggest theme that we see, is that there's a focus on the customer experience now. And whether that's coming from the linear team all the way or the digital team, breaking down silos has never been more important as marketing budgets get tighter. And also, the demands on performance actually heat up as well. So I don't think it's been figured out yet, which team is going to own programmatic TV. But, what's going to happen is I'm sure the customer experience is going to be driving it.
Okay, and from a European perspective, just from my view when we're out at the agencies, it's very similar. It's still undecided as to where it sits. We tend to have a video team and a TV team, and there's always conversations about cross-platform campaigns, but it's still not all joining together. So we're definitely at the start of that journey as well. So as Adam was saying, it'd be interesting to see how that comes together. But it'll be from the sales houses and the agencies and the tech vendors that all need to join this together. And I'm guessing that's going to take some time to get to that stage.
Cool, thanks guys. Another one that's come in here whilst we've been talking, how will the upcoming EU General Data Protection Regulation affect programmatic TV advertising?
Wow, yeah, that's a good question. I think it might be best answered by the webinar I think we did a couple of weeks back, where we had our council kind of dive into the nuances of GDPR. It does mean, as a product person here, we have to treat data very differently in the EU. It's one of the principles that we built into OneView, the ability to control the types of data that we use at the country level, to be able to anonymize certain things, to be able to not use certain data elements where it's not allowed. So it's one advantage that we have in our platform. We were fortunate enough to kind of think through that ahead of time, and to allow our data targeting platform to really morph depending on the environment that we're deployed in.
Yeah, good answer. Okay, if anyone has another question, please feel free to type it into the question box. We'll just give it another minute in case we're missing anybody, and then we might wrap up. Okay, well, I think we'll wrap up there. So we'll make sure we follow up with any more questions personally. I'd just like to quickly say thank you again to Neil and Adam for joining us today, and I hope you all enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks, bye.
Thanks, everybody.